Okay, Joe, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, great. So welcome everybody to National Entrepreneurship Week, our third in the series of webinars. We have a great array of speakers today. National Entrepreneurship Week has been around for a number of years. Next slide, please, Amber. Has been around for a number of years, and really over the last several years, we've been able to help drive the excitement around entrepreneurship. So from Maui to Maine, we have a group of partners who have joined. It is very much a grassroots effort to really help celebrate and increase the conversations from a diverse array of entrepreneurs across the community. And so we're very excited to have an esteemed panel of folks speaking today. Amber, next slide. Who are going to be talking about entrepreneurship within their communities, access to resources, access to capital, both the challenges as well as the opportunities. Just as a little bit of background, National Entrepreneurship Week was founded in 2006 by an act of Congress with an organization called EntreEd, the National Consortium for Entrepreneurship Education, and the Kauffman Foundation. And the last couple of years, on a volunteer basis, Amber and I, my name is Joe Cap. I'm president of the National Center for Resource Development, and I am a serial entrepreneur and have worked on a number of different projects. I'm a recovering tech person, previously having worked out with a company out in Silicon Valley, and have started a number of different enterprises. And Amber Ravenscroft has worked very closely with me in putting together the slides and herding all of the proverbial folks to help bring together the series of presentations that have taken place this week. So thank you, Amber, for your continuing and ongoing efforts to help drive that. Just as a reminder, the majority of our activity is taking place and a lot of the conversations are taking place on Twitter. So we strongly encourage you to join us in that conversation. And you can see the Twitter handle there is NatlEshipWeek. So please take a moment to go ahead and add National Entrepreneurship Week to keep abreast. In addition, immediately after this call, we're going to ask folks to get involved in the conversation for National Entrepreneurship Week, to really go back and forth across the country and just increase and elevate entrepreneurship so that it rises to a higher level for at least a half an hour during this week. So immediately after this call, we're going to launch a Twitter conversation. Now, Amber, I'm going to throw it over to you to kick us off.
All right, thank you. Just really quickly, logistically, if you haven't noticed, you are muted when you enter. That's on purpose to keep the minimal background noise happening. Being muted, we're going to ask that you submit questions via the chat function. If there are any questions that we are unable to get to at the end of the webinar, we do have an impressive lineup of speakers, so we may be pushing it a little bit for time for Q&A at the end. We will forward those questions to the individuals that they're directed to so that they can follow up with you via email. All the webinars throughout the week will be recorded and uploaded to the natleshipweek.org within the week of the recording. So you would look for this one on next Wednesday. And we want to make sure that the participants joining us stay tuned to the end of the webinar. We have some exciting plans coming up for National Entrepreneurship Week 2020, and we would love to get your feedback and see how we can get you engaged in a National Entrepreneurship Week moving forward. So with that, I'm very excited to kick off the Entrepreneurship for Everyone webinar. We're really excited to be with our lead partner, 1863 Ventures, today, who has created an impressive lineup of speakers that are working to elevate entrepreneurship across the country for very diverse voices. And we're super excited to introduce Stephen, who has helped us coordinate and organize this panel of speakers today. So Stephen, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both to you, Amber, and Joe, for all the amazing work that you do, and also, again, bridging this gap for all the communities to learn about these amazing opportunities. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Rodriguez. I'm a worldwide community strategist working on different entrepreneurship programs in the greater Washington, D.C. region, and doing some amazing work with 1863 Ventures, who focus on the new majority. How do we help traditionally underrepresented groups? But that's enough about me. What you want to hear is more of the speakers. So we're going to start the lineup with Ade Omitawoju from New Voices, who's going to talk a little bit about that fund and some of the opportunities there. So without further ado, Ade.
Awesome, awesome. First and foremost, I want to thank Amber and Steven and Joe for pulling this together. I mean, it's no small task to bring a group of folks together, and it's even harder to focus on one particular topic, which is entrepreneurship. So really excited to be sharing the story on behalf of New Voices, and we'll share a little bit about specifically the foundation and some of the work that we're doing with the fund. Amber, would you mind going to the next slide? Thank you. So just a little bit of background. The foundation and the fund itself were started by the Dennis family. Not a lot of people may know this, but they started an organization called Shea Moisture and Nubian Heritage. So these are what we call consumer packaged goods, or CPG products, that sold nationally, were incredibly successful, and they were acquired by Unilever a few years ago. And within their DNA itself was the culture of empowering women, because many of these products actually come from West Africa. So you have your shea butter, or the shea nut from West Africa. So you actually go to the country, work with the women, and use that market access to actually empower women through economics, right? So it's always within the organization itself to focus on it and support women. So with the fund and the foundation itself, the goal is really to capitalize on an opportunity that not a lot of people know about, but it's very clear to us. That is the fact that women of color in particular is the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs, especially when you look at over the past 10 years. Not only are there 2.4 million African-American women-owned businesses now in 2018, but many of them, in terms of the actual growth, they grow at a rate of 3 times their peer set. So what we're seeing from a macro standpoint is more business formation and incredible drive. But next, the goal is providing for access and opportunity. Next slide, please. So for us, the access and opportunity are key catalysts for providing for what we see as a business opportunity, right? So many women of color across the nation have great ideas, may have traction, but they don't have the community or the capital or some of the kind of initial tool sets in order to be successful. So what we seek to do is to ignite the long-term social change by supporting these communities, as well as use entrepreneurship as a medium to help them where they are. Next slide, please. So just some of the stats, right? Just as I mentioned, women of color have great potential to succeed, but are very frequently, they don't have the access, right? So we have almost 3 times growth in business ownership. But of course, on the other side, especially even as we see, not just with women, but with people of color in general, a very small slice of the capital invested goes towards women. And of course, we know that the more people that are on the other side of the table, the more likelihood that you will, through your own network and through your kind of unraveled bias, like you'll see business opportunity in other folks in other communities that maybe other people don't. And then also when you look at just the bottom line, the profit factor, traditionally women-owned businesses perform better, not just from a profitability standpoint, but usage of funds, etc. So again, this isn't just a social component to it. We definitely see the business opportunity. Next slide, please. So what's important to us is not just kind of taking a venture approach and investing in women of color entrepreneurs. We really want to be able to provide full spectrum support, and we do that through our ACE model, which is access, capital, and expertise. As I mentioned before, after the acquisition of Shea Moisture by Unilever, I mean, there's decades of institutional knowledge about how to run CPG companies, not just from scratch, but operations, scale, etc. So a lot of that knowledge we're able to use to support entrepreneurs within the portfolio, but then also through the broader network, through the work of the foundation itself. So some of the things that we've done, last year we did over 5 pitch competitions throughout the nation, where we were able to give out $100,000 each time. And really that was just a way for us to go into different communities, establish a platform by which just the amazing mosaic of women entrepreneurs of color can come in and be seen, and then be rewarded for not only the progress that they've been able to make with their companies, but also the way that they've been able to tell their story from an investment standpoint. So as a result, for example, of these pitch competitions, they get funding, but then they also get ongoing support to help crystallize their vision in order to grow and scale their company. So in closing, we're incredibly grateful to be part of this conversation with us in general. We're doing a small part, trying to bring capital to the market, as well as expertise through our collective network. And we're really excited about how not only our work can support the greater mission of National Entrepreneurship Week, but then also how we can use our own shared experiences to combine the opportunity, access, and capital to founders nationally.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ade. And next up, we're going to have Zena Island from Get Found, Get Funded. And she's just a part of many things. So take it away.
Yes, I am. Ade, thank you for setting everything up for me, because a lot of those statistics I was going to mention, now that I don't have to. I'm Zena Island. I'm one of the co-founders of Get Found, Get Funded, a co-host. It's a podcast that creates visibility, paths for growth, and opportunities for entrepreneurs. We aim to amplify more voices for the statistically underrepresented entrepreneur in the startup and tech space. And another big goal of ours is that we're interested in disrupting the venture backable space for women, men of color, LGBTQ, and even those not in certain geographic areas and that didn't go to certain schools, all have a harder time getting funding. Through our podcast, we hope to join others working to change the venture backable space, such as Pipeline Angels, which 2 of the other 2 co-hosts, Christina Francis and Aurelia Flores, my 2 co-hosts, they are Pipeline Angels, 1863 Ventures, which you will hear from later on, and others. Page 2, please, slide 2. The venture backable space, which means those who seek angel and VC funding are likely to receive funding, is not only for the best way to grow a business, it's only one way. And it not only does someone need to be qualified, they need to decide that that's the option for growing a business is right for them. So we have, our podcast is really based on this theme. And we have dozens of shows on our podcast that we highlight this point. And one particular is a show with Sage Savo from Words Live, who is right here in the Washington, D.C. area. And we had a show with him with Jenny Chasm, who talked about the different funding opportunities or funding that's available besides just, going after VC money. Businesses may not want to grow as fast in this space as this space requires. Founders may not want to step out of their role and lead in the business, and businesses may be more cautious about the drivers in the venture backable space and not sure how it will affect their business. So the whole purpose of our podcast is to educate those about the venture backable space, making it accessible and answer questions, and not to have any shame not knowing. So as we educate, we want people to have the choice to enter this space if they want to, and know that there are many choices if they decide not to enter the space. So you will see, or hear a variety of different entrepreneurs on our podcast. And most of the time we pair them with an expert or a thought leader who will help them unpack their biggest challenge and then provide insight and advice on that challenge. You can go to the next slide. We support those in this space by making connections, doing lots of prep with our guests and experts. And so we take this very seriously. A lot of people don't know the work we do behind the scenes, a lot of prep work. We talk to our entrepreneurs first, figure out what their greatest challenge is, And then we move forward with find the expert for that particular entrepreneur. And from there, we put together questions, and then we host a show. So that's what we mean by take our role seriously. We are more than just a podcast. We see ourselves as change makers, and the podcast is just really part of the overall strategy. Today, I think earlier I said we've done 27 podcasts. We are now over 30, and we've also added on McKeever onto the show called, he does Mac Moments, and he talks to sports, former football players who are investing in other entrepreneurs. Some of them are also other people in the sports industry. So he's been having those conversations with them. So we just launched his program in January. So that's what we've been doing. And at Get Found, Get Funded, we look forward to another great season. And please join us if you can. Come to our website at getfoundgetfunded.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Zena. And I've been on the podcast before, and it helps you unpack and learn a few things as you're going through the process. So definitely would recommend it. Next speaker is going to be Christopher Wood from the LGBT Technology Partnership and Institute.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Joe and Amber. I'm very excited to be here. I wear a lot of different hats, as do many entrepreneurs, not only running a for-profit business, but also running several nonprofit businesses, one of them being LGBT tech, and really in the social entrepreneurship space. Been doing that for about 5 to 6 years now, but also I've looked at other, that is a national venture, but also looking at other local ventures as well and how to impact local communities. LGBT tech really focuses at the intersection of LGBT community and technology. Which seems pretty obvious at first glance, but until our organization was formed, there was no one really working at the intersection of LGBT and technology to make sure that we were represented at federal, state, and local policy, as well as programmatically to make sure that those who may end up on the digital divide or not necessarily able to access technology have the ability to do so. So I'll get into that a little bit more here in just a minute. So digging into social entrepreneurship, I think it's one area where people have ideas that may not necessarily make a lot of money as a business or a for-profit business, but could potentially have a big impact on a community or on a national community or a particular part of society or minority community. And so I think it's really important to make sure that as you're thinking about your ideas, or if you're like me and you have that entrepreneurship heart where you don't necessarily want to work for someone else, but you know you want to do something really impactful. Making sure that that you are looking at your various paths, and quite frankly, from stepping from my for-profit job to and for-profit business into my nonprofit business, they run pretty much the same with a few technical differences. But overall, we're impacting the community. We're providing a product, a service that really has a lasting effect on the community. So what do I mean by that, and what is an example? One of the examples that I like to bring up often is as part of our research and looking into the LGBTQ community and technology, we recognized that there was a large portion of the population that was not getting connected online. And there are major portions of minority communities that oversect or overlap with the LGBTQ community that really do not have the option to get online, get connected, or have the opportunity to become an entrepreneur. It's not even in their thought process because they're just trying to survive day in and day out. And so one of the programs that we created was something called the Power On program. And it's a way where we're taking technology, and you've probably seen recycling, upcycling of technology as it turns over a lot nowadays. But we're actually able to take that and redistribute those pieces of technology after they're being wiped and gone through a certain process, and put them into the hands of those who otherwise would not have access to it, giving them the opportunity to not only access resources that are typically only online, but also to begin thinking about things like entrepreneurship and creating your own business. And sometimes, especially with our transgender community, being able to work from home, being able to run your own business is a really crucial step to being successful. So I see it crossing in many different areas, and the social entrepreneurship landscape is, I think, one that's not talked about as commonly when we're talking about entrepreneurship, but it's a very powerful tool and a way to impact communities and provide services to communities in a way that just hasn't been done before. So thank you so much for having me this week.
Awesome. And thank you so much, Chris, for all the work you're doing. It's just, everybody's doing amazing work. Next, we're going to have Krista Brown from E4All.
Hi, everyone. I'm Krista from E4All. We are in Lowell, Massachusetts. I'm the content manager here. So we've been around since 2014, and we have 6 programs currently throughout 7 communities in Massachusetts, but we're also embarking upon a national expansion, which is really exciting. Our mission is to strengthen communities through inclusive entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. So our mission is to give everyone an opportunity with an idea to either create a brand new business, to either pivot an idea of an existing business, or to even help people who have a hobby and they're trying to think about how they can take it to the next level. So the way that we've done this is we developed a 12-week-long accelerator program where entrepreneurs join a cohort of 15 other startups. They attend classes twice a week and also get the opportunity to receive cash prizes where we take no fees, no equity, nothing. So it's totally free. We also have a Spanish program that is exactly the same in the communities of Lawrence and Lynn, where there are high Latino populations. So it's the same curriculum, same impact, and those entrepreneurs are also matched with a mentor team of 3 individuals. So every entrepreneur gets 3 people who are dedicated to help them flesh out their ideas, give them feedback, and encouragement throughout the process. Next slide. So these are kind of our 3 main buckets that we like to talk about here at E4All. So pitch contests are one of our touch points that we have in the community. We host them every 6 months, and they're fun, community-driven events. We like to call them Shark Tank without the teeth, because the feedback that they're getting from the judges is constructive, but also whether or not somebody they get feedback. The other part of our program, which is our main one, is the accelerator program that I was talking about. So after applying and being accepted, entrepreneurs are going through classes, they're learning, they're meeting with their mentors once a week. Once the accelerator is done, they get 9 months of additional support where they can meet with their mentors once a week. And they still have opportunities to get cash prizes for the rest of the calendar year. So every quarter, entrepreneurs are getting more chances to get a piece of the $20,000 prize pool that we offer. Once completing the accelerator program, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who've gone on to establish businesses that are creating jobs in the community and seeing the economic growth that can happen. And so we're not only helping people fledge out their business ideas and helping them become self-sufficient, but we also say a meal on the table for your family is a win. A brick and mortar is a win. So there are lots of different ways that we kind of quantify what success could mean for somebody who has an idea for a business. Next slide. So these are the things that we believe set us apart from other accelerators, at least here in our environment. The cohort model is really unique. So we actually love a lot of individual entrepreneurs and teams. We don't discriminate on either. So we have 15. So an entrepreneur doesn't have to go through the program by themselves. They're learning alongside people, they're sharing advice, and the cohorts always are building this wonderful support system that's really great to see. The mentor teams, like we said, everyone is matched with 3 mentors. So we have an event called Mentor Matching. It's a 2-day event, and entrepreneurs fill out software that our tech team that has developed that sifts through your schedule, your availability, your background, and every entrepreneur has 3 people that have been specifically chosen to help them with their idea. It takes into account your schedule. Then with our cash prizes, as I said earlier, we take no fees. Equity that entrepreneurs get is theirs. And the continued support means once the accelerator is done, you are with E4All forever. So the networking continues, the resource sharing continues. And a lot of our alumni are building a network now where they're going to be able to support one another, refer each other. As we expand across the country, it's going to be this huge network of entrepreneurs, mentors, And another piece of the cohort that I didn't mention was that, so during the accelerator, we're bringing in content specialists, anything from legal advice to finances, accounting. So they're sharing their expertise as well. And as we grow, the sites are able to share that knowledge with each other, which is awesome. Next slide. So this is the impact that we've made since 2013. We now have 6 programs in 7 communities. And as you can see, the capital being raised, the jobs that are being created, it's really amazing. And the bottom pie charts that you see, so those are the demographics of everyone who's gone through our accelerator to date. So 73% of the businesses are women-owned, 57% are women-owned, 52% are immigrant-owned, and 59% are owned by people who, before entering E4All, were not employed. So as we're expanding across the country, we're really showing people like bringing E4All to your community can create this kind of impact. So this is something that we really like to share. And for those of you across the globe that want to bring E4All to you, this is the impact that can happen over a few years. Next slide. So thank you, everyone. That's Krista from E4All. We are currently in Massachusetts, but we are embarking upon a national expansion. We're in talks now with Colorado and places in California, and we're bringing our model to any community out there that believes that entrepreneurship can be the key to spurring economic growth. So for any of you out there in the Massachusetts area that want to get involved, there's opportunities to mentor, to help us with applications. If you want to learn more about us, our website's e4all.org. We're in all the social media, and I welcome any emails that you may want to send over.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Krista. And 3 points that I picked up very well is that all of these organizations are going to have different programs and events for all the viewers. Make sure to check them out and see what's coming along, and then apply to what makes sense for you. Also, there's lots of communities, so don't feel like entrepreneurship normally is lonely. So feel free to check out the communities and find your tribe as you check these programs out. So next up, we're going to have Derek Pearson from Black Tech Week.
Hello, again, my name is Derek Pearson. I'm one of the co-founders of Code Fever Miami, a 501c3 located here in Miami, Florida. Black Tech Week is one of our initiatives. My wife, Felicia Hatcher, is the other co-founder. Can we go to the next slide if you have it?
Derek, I did not have the slide deck in time.
Okay, that's fine.
I apologize.
All right, so Black Tech Week, again, is a week-long series of events, and what we do is the whole purpose of Code Fever is to eliminate innovation deserts in communities of colors, particularly Black communities. And what we do is we bring in this week-long series of events. We have a road show as well. This road show goes into markets, 7 markets throughout the United States, where it's a smaller version of the week. So those are our Black Tech weekends, or the Black Tech Road Show. Kansas City was one of our cities, Los Angeles, New York, Charlotte, Philly, as well as Miami, New Orleans, and St. Louis. Not St. Louis, but Austin, Texas. So again, Black Tech Week, what we've tried to do is we try to connect individuals who are interested in technology with hiring partners. We bring in those hiring partners to Miami. We also bring in venture capitalists to connect the startup founders with access, with capital. So they have that access to capital, they have access to mentorship, and we bring other innovators and influencers in technology and culture to Miami to inspire the next generation, and to, again, provide them with the resources in order to scale and promote their ideas and to create wealth for themselves as well as their communities. One of our other programs is the Black Tech VC in Residence program. It's called VCIR, and the VC in Residence program is where we bring in venture capitalists to Miami for an entire month. Marley Nichols was our first VC with Cross Culture Ventures. He came into Miami, he coached and guided startup founders. They had weekly sessions with him. Within those weekly sessions, he was able to, again, make their organizations pivot so that they're more valuable in the eyes of the venture capitalists, so that they're well positioned in order to get funding. Also, startup founders within his portfolio, 2 startup founders, each week we had 2 startup founders from within his portfolio come into Miami and coach and guide these startups. So our program is very robust. Our goal for the program is, again, to bring capital to startups to, again, allow for sorry, somebody was coming to allow for individuals of color to gain employment in the tech sector, and again, to inspire the next generation of youth and adults to get into tech and to create wealth, generational wealth for themselves and anybody else that they desire to. That's Black Tech.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Derek. And Black Tech Week, there are many celebrations out there, Black Tech being one of the more prominent ones that I've seen, but Global Entrepreneurship, Texas Startup Week, obviously National Entrepreneurship Week, just different opportunities for you to get to learn different resources and connect with your communities. And next up, we're gonna have Art Stevens from 1863 Ventures.
Thank you, Stephen. I am really thrilled to be here today, representing my good friend Melissa Bradley. 1863 Ventures, we started coming up on 3 years ago as Project 500. I really so appreciate the other presenters we've heard today who have been approaching and I think, like so many folks, have pointed out a lot of the deficiencies in funding and support for new majority entrepreneurs. What I think was surprising to us, the Project 500 began as a bet between Melissa and the deputy mayor for Washington, D.C., that we could find and support 500 small businesses owned by new majority folks, primarily in areas east of the river, which in the Washington, D.C. area has historically been marginalized. There's been efforts to grow and support business in Washington, D.C., but what we've seen is as the gentrification has come here in so many major metro areas, the business owners of color were being left behind. And our specific goal was, how can we find and make the more local businesses resilient to rise from economic development and not be washed over by it? We pivoted back in October, having met those 500 businesses in about 22 months. We looked at a larger goal and how can we create $100 billion of new wealth for new majority entrepreneurs in 10 years. And we rebranded as 1863 Ventures to honor the touchstone that was the Emancipation Proclamation, but also as an acknowledgement that remains unfulfilled. That was the beginning of a commitment that this nation still has to carry forward with. Can we get the next slide? So we talk about new majority rather than minority because, in fact, as the Census Bureau shows, that folks of color and women-owned businesses in these other areas that have been historically marginalized by 2044 will be the majority. And so this idea that we are going to be a multiracial society is already happening. How are we distributing the know-how and power to grow and create wealth? Next one. The other thing I think we want to look at, because we've heard about many of the statistics, women get 8% of venture capital, minority women, pardon me, new majority women get 1%. I think what we want to make sure from 1863 perspective that folks in the broader community and let's face it, white community understand is this is not simply a do-gooder kind of issue. This is the market. New majority entrepreneurs already are a substantial and crucial part of our economic life in America. And I think that's the fact that gets lost often as we look about how to grow and scale businesses or how to provide help or how to accelerate all of these kind of things. We want to make sure that that policymakers, business owners, large supply chain providers, all of the folks in the economy who have already made it understand that this isn't simply a social responsibility aspect, and we're very focused on social justice, but in fact, they're missing out on an enormous and growing market that is driving both job creation, economic growth, that is driving new business formation, and then is driving wealth creation, and ultimately will have to be an important part of the solution to wealth inequality if we're going to solve that issue going forward. Next. So the 150 billion, more statistics, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time with this. I apologize we used the word minority. We're working through our slide decks. It is one of those transitional issues, but one thing you can do for me for everyone listening to this call is if you would use the phrase new majority as an alternative to that, we would certainly appreciate it. We are all about positive branding at 1863 and about looking at opportunities rather than simply correcting problems. But as you can see, with 1 million jobs created in a time, thank you so much, Jeremiah. We're getting coming through on the chat. Love it. Thank you very much. So, revenue numbers created. It is a reality now that if we can help a new majority entrepreneur form a business, he or she is much more likely to hire folks in new majority and create jobs in that space as well. We're leaving $1.7 trillion on the table if we don't figure out a way to provide equal access to both training, to capital, and to the other resources necessary to grow a business. Next slide. So we look at this in 3 areas of key: the wealth, the wisdom, and the workforce. We have to come up with a way to deal with the wealth inequality in this country. We continue to see fewer and fewer, and to this audience, I don't need to convince you that we are seeing a continued concentration of wealth. We are looking at what are the strategies that we can put in place with new majority entrepreneurs that will allow them to compete and grow their businesses effectively and organically grow their wealth. The wisdom, it's one thing to provide skills, and those are crucially important. And we have for years and years looked at partners in the education space, partners on the local government space to provide workforce development and provide education. But what we believe we also need is we need people who have been there, and we need people who have sat in the exec chair. So we need to help empower our new majority entrepreneurs once they succeed to also be mentors and to help to bring along the next generation. And then the workforce. The reality is we are not going to continue to have economic success in this country without a trained and effective workforce. And that means through all of our folks. That doesn't just mean one slice of our society. And the best way we can found to do that is to provide effective entrepreneurial growth. Next. So I went from the 3 W's to the 3 M's. we are alliterative here at 1863. But management, markets, and money. When we look at the gaps and the research that Kaufman and other institutions have done, and Georgetown, a fabulous partner of ours, when we look at the gaps between the successful entrepreneurs and those who have mostly soft social capital networks to help provide these things. The training is certainly formal and rigorous training that folks have gotten an MBA or gone to Stanford or that sort of thing. But the reality is, if you are in an entrepreneurial family, if you've had this since birth, there are cultural elements that are providing this to you unconsciously, and we want to make sure that by providing rigorous management training and support, actually getting people to measurable levels of improvement in their abilities in marketing, in their abilities in operations, in their abilities to understand their finances, and in their abilities to hire and build the teams. That's going to help them to have the personal capacity to be able to use capital and use access to markets to grow their business. Because without that ability to handle growth, you can't grow and scale your business. So then we want to make sure that we can find supply chain opportunities to give them the chance to grow their business and scale as quickly as possible. And then, of course, I know everyone on this call is trying to figure out how do we provide access to affordable, flexible capital that allows our entrepreneurs to grow. Next. So this is a little part of our team. These are some of the folks that we've already worked with and some individual success stories. We have had a tech-enabled group. We've had high-growth small businesses. We have worked with cohorts of startups who have very different requirements. Obviously, moving from 0 to 1 is a lot different than moving from $500,000 to $1 million in revenues. And so we have tried to structure our programs to meet the entrepreneurs where they are and provide the kind of support and mentorship that takes them to the next level, and to provide specific measurable goals in both decisions and actions that are going to move them forward. Some of the terrific businesses we've worked with are mentioned below with some of their individual success results. Next slide, please. And this gives you a little bit of the overall picture. And I actually just updated this slide earlier, so I should have provided one. It's actually a little over $320 million in aggregate prior 12-month revenue. We have, they have 4,000 employees. We've helped add 600. 65% have at least one employee, which means 35% are sole proprietors. And that's kind of that mix as we're looking at the mix of entrepreneurs we're hitting, from the pure startup to that million up business who's facing that challenge of how do I grow and support a team and processes, not how do I get my idea to market. And 55% live in socially, economically challenged areas. Next. These are just some pictures of the, I realize I've been going on a long time, so we can skip forward. And these are the programs I talked about. Whoops, there we go. One more. Next. All right, and the program outcomes, one more. And let's go, I think there's one last slide I want us to finish with. Yeah, the team. Next. Thank you. So I think what we're looking at to make sure that we're providing both in the DC area and in Baltimore, other programs we're looking at in Detroit and other areas are a culturally competent team and building that team that works for the situation on the ground, because the reality is that the makeup of the the new majority entrepreneurs are different in different cities. So we want to make sure that we're empathic and making sure that we're aware of the unique challenges that our folks face. Externally, we've been thrilled to find partners in both the for-profit and government sector that understand the challenges of the group and are providing deep and seasoned entrepreneurs, both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, as helpful mentors. And also we've been able to build some relationships with some really incredible late-stage success companies that are helping and providing marketing opportunities in the supply chain. So I'm going to leave it there because I've gone past my 7 minutes, but I'm deeply, deeply grateful to all of the people on this line who are doing this work, because I think we are seeing change. And that's, to me, the most exciting part is we are seeing signaling of changes of women of color starting to be featured in places we'd never seen them before, and questions we get asked changing in the nature of risk management to real opportunity. And I think that's exciting. And with your help, we hope to grow and continue and get that $100 billion goal in 10 years. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Art. And as I work with different communities across the world, when it comes to entrepreneurship, the most thriving, successful ones are the ones that just focus on being inclusive of different groups, different races, everything in general, because it just makes economic sense to grow the economy. All right. And next, now we're going to have Brittany Chambers with Ethos.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to join you all today and share a little bit more about our organization, Ethos, formerly GenFKD, which means Generation Financial Knowledge Development. We're currently going through a rebranding period, so we're really excited because I think this is our actual first kind of soft launch of sharing the new brand with so many around the world. So first and foremost, next slide, please. Would love to start by sharing a little bit about my background and how I kind of came to this work. In the year 2016, I actually wanted to create an app and figured my family had owned a few brick and mortar organizations, and I did a bit in the educational space as well as research and journalism, and didn't really know kind of what the tech space was like. So I really wanted to explore and try this new arena. However, I was like listening to Gary Vee videos and I was all fired up, super excited. But then as soon as I created the app from scratch, utilizing a kind of web design platform and a few other things, I didn't really know who to speak to or how to go about launching it and being able to market it to venture capitalists who would be interested in funding it. So that kind of led me to some research around creating a voice for Black tech entrepreneurs in academic literature. And through that literature and through those experiences was introduced to the GenFKD, now Ethos team, and a lot of the amazing work they did. But a lot of my background research has been a great funnel for how we bridge the gaps with non-traditional entrepreneurs. So as you can see here are a few overview statistics based on some of the study. What I was finding was that there was a huge misalignment between investors and entrepreneurs, as well as a lack of access to resources and a lack of ability to grow and scale their teams. And in that, we noticed that those areas that I was noticing with the Black tech entrepreneurs that they had difficulty in were some similar consistent themes that we also saw in the collegiate realm. So the collegiate realm being the traditional four-year college as well as the community college, where students were going for both bachelor's and associate degrees and even onward to the graduate level. Next slide. So with that, Ethos's mission was to bridge this gap. And by bridging the gap, we really create opportunities for that early education at the entrepreneurial level in the collegiate space. And with that, a lot of the findings that I found from the study where entrepreneurs were truly able to thrive beyond the collegiate level were some of the same things we were finding at the college level. Next slide, thank you. So what we found, and our reason for focusing on entrepreneurial education, was that students at a non-business school that we did a case study at, 99% of them found that they didn't have the funding necessary to grow their organizations. And then 80% of them shared that they had lacked the skills to be able to curate those organizations. But meanwhile, in addition to that, they also felt on a scale of 1 to 10 that they were 4.8% prepared or confident in starting a business. So those statistics became really huge for us and show the parallel again to that research that highlights the importance of mentorship, the importance of hands-on learning, the importance of really being able to find ways to synthesize information at an earlier stage. But not only that, we found that being able to have the entrepreneurial education could also turn key into creating opportunities for financial stability, for generational wealth, as so many others had mentioned before, prior to this presentation, and so much more. So we really wanted to really try to find ways to bridge those gaps and see what unique opportunities we can provide to students that really met them where they were most passionate and most enthused in order to increase their most optimal opportunities for success. Next slide, thank you. So with that, what we did to bridge the gap was to create 3 different streams of opportunities. So at present, we have a couple 4-credit courses and workshops we facilitated at colleges like Boston University, SUNY Purchase, and a few other areas, really helping students to engage in those hands-on learning experiences. From that, we've also turnkeyed some of those programs into Shark Tank style events where we've been able to help students truly apply their business learnings to the real world and kind of go through a simulated walk through what it would look like to pitch to a ton of investors. We've actually had students walk away with $2,000 or more to fund the initial start of their organizations, in addition to some consultations and legal fee coverage. So we really tried to provide them resources there. On the campus fellowship side, we've also created student organizations at over 30 colleges. So we really focus on creating champions in those inner city communities at the college level, who are fellow colleagues to their peers, to be able to help bring about tons of seminars and educational opportunities on financial literacy, entrepreneurial development, and anything else related to those unique fields. Our last but not least area that has been a recent addition to our Gen FKD Now Ethos brand is the institutional and local community research. We found that in addition to offering a lot of these opportunities for students, it's important to also increase the opportunities and bridge the gaps in training for the faculty as well as the surrounding community. So what we've found to be truly instrumental and truly important is focusing on how we can raise a greater awareness on what actually is the litmus at each school. So how students are truly feeling, getting into the classroom, talking to to them, exploring. So some students have told us, you know, we're really enthused when we're passionate about what we're doing. We're really excited and engaged when we feel like our voices are being heard. We love smaller classroom styles. We want something that's really gonna help us to journal and reflect on our thoughts and experiences. So over a lot of the data that we've collected over the past 5 going on 6 years, we've used that to help institutions now to be able to seek greater grant funding to support some of the student learning opportunities for underserved populations, in addition to helping schools create better insights for student retention, as well as faculty retention, and increasing that synergistic overlap between those 2 areas. Next slide, please. So last but not least, truly we find that working with the institutions as well as students at the collegiate level, it has helped us to build ecosystems for those budding and up and coming entrepreneurs. And I think the beauty about that too is that, you know, traditionally we've gone through an educational environment that has been fashioned towards more workforce development and access. But now we're seeing a greater need, especially with a recent article that was published by BuzzFeed and others about, you know, the so-called burnout generation. We're seeing students, we're seeing young adults, we're seeing people take on numerous roles and numerous job opportunities. And so there's a great demand for entrepreneurial education and learning that extends outside of the traditional workforce development realm. But again, on top of that, we're also seeing that these needs for those areas are great in more predominantly minority communities or more areas where there's an interdisciplinary major. So say a student is studying law or studying psychology and would like to venture into the entrepreneurial realm, but may not have business as a primary focus. It has been a great opportunity to provide that platform through some of our work. In addition to that, last but not least, we are happy to also bridge those synergies in local communities. So not only using the institution as a champion, but working with chambers of commerce in those areas, in addition to also working with local community business organizations, providing mentorship opportunities for students, and also those mentorship opportunities for faculty as well, and training them on the fact that these entrepreneurs from these various backgrounds may have a different course to the entrepreneurial realm, and it may look a little different or take a little longer or shorter in some instances, but to be more inclusive of creating a truly inclusive ecosystem for all. Last slide, please. So thank you. I'd love to say, you know, I really appreciate the National Entrepreneurship Week for All, including us in this presentation. Special thanks to Stephen, Amber, and Joe, in addition to 1863 Ventures. The work you guys are doing is so instrumentally important, and JNFKD, now also Ethos, is truly grateful for being a part of this presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany. And Brittany and everyone else, they're all doing such amazing work. And this is just a small taste of the opportunities and the resources out there, because entrepreneurship is for everyone. So if you think that, oh, it's not for me, get that out of your head. It's for everyone. It may not be for you specifically, but if you want to explore entrepreneurship, you can. There are so many more resources now, like some of these that we just presented. There's many more. Unfortunately, we only have so much time. There's Black Girl Ventures and a few other programs that are national or global, or some of them even local as well. But yeah, thank you. Amber, I'll just hand it back to you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to really applaud Stephen for his work in collaborating and bringing all these amazing speakers to the table. We could not have done that without you, so we're really appreciative of you as well. Joe, do you want me to take a quick question or two, or do you want to wrap up early? We're super excited. This hasn't happened yet.
No, well, so a couple of things. First of all, I do want to applaud everybody and their presentations. Amber and I have now been doing this for a couple of years now, and it always warms our heart to see an amazing, successful group of people who are committed to helping drive entrepreneurship. Having personally taken it on the chin in the past in support of entrepreneurship and driving entrepreneurship, as I mentioned earlier, I know that our work as enablers, as people who are building ecosystems, is oftentimes not easy. And so It's nice to be able to see a broad range network of folks who are committed and working on a variety of different things. There were a couple of questions that did come through with regards to speakers. I think one thing that came through was a question really about access to entrepreneurial resources for those folks who maybe have a bit of a challenging background or previously incarcerated. And I just wanted to throw it out there. It's a good question. There are some resources, and I know that a number of community colleges have some programs, but I just wanted to throw it out there and just see if there's folks who maybe have a program or any thoughts on that community or any other communities that might oftentimes have challenges to get to some of the resources. Certainly, entrepreneurship is a route, a non-traditional route, and it's one of the reasons that I personally went down through entrepreneurship, because I wanted to be able to have dominion over my own time. So throw it out there. Any thoughts or ideas on that question?
Hello?
Yep.
Yes.
Hey, this is Grace Blangy. I'm with the Clubhouse.
Sure. Hi, Grace.
Hi, I'm sort of new to this group, but I know a few of you, so hello. Does anybody here know about Defy Ventures? If
Please
you don't, I can...
Feel free to, yeah, just feel free to share. We have a couple of extra minutes, so feel free to share.
Okay, I don't know if I can post it in the little website here. Defy Ventures is a nonprofit organization that strictly works with incarcerated individuals looking for entrepreneurship, and they have a mentoring program, and they have chapters around the country, and they have some institutional backing for it. So I just posted a link to it. If somebody wants to share that, they can. It's a group that I just have an acquaintance that works there. So for whatever it's worth, that might be something that you can share with the person that asked the question.
Yeah, so thank you very much. That is a valuable resource, and I think that entrepreneurship as an opportunity and outlet for workforce development and for personal development is so significant, because if you own the business and you start the business, then you have control over the business, and so that is a great resource. It looks like there's some other folks that Mark has just put in the group as well. Any other thoughts or ideas or questions, Amber?
There was one question for 1863 Ventures from Jeremiah, and he's a big advocate today. He's been active there in the chat box. He wanted to know about how do you maintain your engagement methodology with your alums to keep your reporting updated?
Yeah, I did answer privately. Sorry about that. There are a couple of things. We've looked very carefully at how we structure our onboarding surveys. We get a number of people, and now we're coming up on 3 years and have multiple programs. And one of the nice things is that some of the people who may have applied in 2016 or 2017 in reapplying in 2018 are going to answer some of the baseline questions, employees and revenue, and the things that we're looking at. Basically, we look to measure three things. We look to measure their performance of their company over long term, things like revenue and customers and obviously employees. We look at their performance within the program. Did they learn along the various areas that we're looking at? And then 6 and 12 months later, how has that impacted their business? So we have an annual survey as well. We've been fortunate to get a pretty good response rate. As I'd mentioned to Jeremiah, I'm not above bribery. We offer $100 gift Amazon certificates as a prize on a randomly drawn. But the data is one of the biggest challenges. I think one of the nice things for us is that because we have a series of recurring contests, we can once we can individually identify the data on email, when you update or apply to something new, I can update the data and see the difference. So it's a mixture of strategies. It is not an insignificant amount of time. It's a significant amount of time. it's most of my job. But it's absolutely crucial for us to see how we're doing. Is the content helping? And are there other issues? We're actually working now with Deloitte to do a little bit of a controlled trial to look at folks who have applied but not been through a program, to look and see what the differences are, in the folks who, the couple hundred well, actually 700-800 folks that have not been through a program yet, and compare them with the folks that have to try to get, some more random controlled trial data. It's very challenging, yes, and response rates are not terrific, and I will probably be bribing some of those folks as well. But as I mentioned, I'm happy to talk to anybody on this call who's into data or wants to chat about how to best measure the progress of your program.
Well, thank you so much. That is very valuable information, and having those metrics are important for a variety of reasons. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Just want to remind everybody, in about a minute, we're going to go ahead and do the Twitter storm. And so throw out questions just to really engage people from across the United States. So I want to go ahead and just thank all of the speakers. Amber, next slide, please. Just as a reminder, tomorrow, we're going to have the Rural Community Assistance Partnership and the National League of Cities collaborating to really help kind of maybe do a little bit of bridging some of the divide between our rural towns and our communities and urban centers. What a great way to go ahead and drive greater collaboration than having communities work with one another regardless of their geography. And so we expect some really, really good presentation for that tomorrow. Again, the same time, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then on Friday, we're going to have the federal government agencies, the Small Business Administration, the U.S. Department of Commerce, the USDA, the National Institutes of Health, the Appalachian Regional Commission, and NASA are all going to be here talking about some of the programs that they have for entrepreneurs that a lot of us probably haven't thought about in the past. So Amber, next slide. Oh, this slide, yes. So there are going to be additional opportunities. One of the things that we want to do is even increase the reach and the opportunity for accessibility for National Entrepreneurship Week. And as a result of that, we are really looking to put together two pieces. One is a national advisory board so that we can get input and really continue great work like this. Should we do more webinars? Should there be other areas of focus, industry-based webinars? And so we're going to invite everybody to really submit their information to be a part of the advisory board. And the other thing that we're also looking at is establishing a state ambassador to make sure that each of our states are represented for National Entrepreneurship Week. We have had a lot of great opportunities from a variety of different folks. Next slide, please. So with that, thank you very much, and feel free to go ahead and start going ahead and tweeting. Tweet soon, early, and often. Let's go ahead and just raise the profile. And thank you, and happy National Entrepreneurship Week, and thank you for all the work that you do. We will see you